All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Driving Social Impact with Creators. Really, really excited about our panel that we have here today. So I'm going to go ahead and just toss it over to you. I don't think I can do introductions quite justice. But starting with Jacqueline, do you want to take a moment and introduce yourself to the crowd?
I'm happy to. Thank you, Max. Hi, everybody. I'm Jacqueline Prager Devine. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a co-owner of the Soze Agency, and I'm also the Associate Director of Talent at Soze.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chrissy Rutherford. I am a writer, digital creator, podcaster, and DEI consultant.
Low maintenance, high priestess is what I read. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Victoria Blinova. I work at YouTube as Senior Strategic Partner Manager.
Yes, and I would also like to give a shout out to Victoria. She just got a promotion to senior, so super excited for you.
Just today got the email this morning. It's really funny.
It was the panel that did it. Yeah. It must be.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
Congratulations.
So congratulations. Great. So we'll start with just a very simple question. How does working with creators influence social impact? So just starting from the top. Do you want to start?
I'm happy to start.
Great.
So working with creators has influenced social impact in so many ways. First of all, I think it gives a broader breadth and reach to a lot of different social movements instead of just movement leaders, which, by the way, guide and organize all of this work. But in addition to them, we also have people with extraordinary platforms who have an audience that trust them. And so when we're able to tap into creators, influencers, trusted messengers, just creatives generally with platforms, we're able to tap into their audience who trust them, who listen to them, who kind of do what they say. And we're able to expand the movement in a even broader way.
Victoria, do you want to share?
Yeah. What I like to say is, with social impact, we want action at the end of the day. We don't want to just talk about something for the sake of talking. And creators are a great way to ensure someone does something, whether it buy your product or actually stand up and do something. And I love power of long form and YouTube in that way. If a person subscribes to a YouTube creator, they usually watch a short form or a long form video and are so loyal to that creator that when the creator does put together or put out a message with a special social cause, there's a very strong likelihood there will be impact from the audience.
Yep. That's great. So what are some examples of some cause marketing campaigns that were taken to the next level with creators? Do you have any examples you want to point to?
I can take it again.
Great.
I was actually just thinking this morning about how 1.5, maybe 2 years ago, our agency worked on a campaign with an organization called Ultraviolet on a campaign to raise awareness about the rampant spread of mis and disinformation on social media and online harassment, particularly towards women and particularly towards women of color. And instead of, as I said earlier, instead of just putting out the information and the statistics that this is what was going on, we partnered with, I want to say, close to 100 different influencers, creators, celebrities to share content, to create content, and then we also sent out what would be considered a PR box, but it was filled with products that were from companies that were led by women or people who were actually directly impacted by the issue that we were uplifting. And so instead of just sharing the message on social media and hoping it goes viral, which sometimes we kind of still do, we were able to get it in the hands of creators to share to their audiences as well. I'm actually going to be talking a lot more about that campaign at the workshop at 2 o'clock.
Nice. Good promotion. Yeah. Great.
I had to.
Victoria, do you have anything that you want to, any examples?
Yeah, sure. I'll actually counter to the question, as in, personally, I don't like to talk about marketing campaigns in a silo in the case of social impact, because I truly believe if we want to achieve, again, action and social impact, it cannot just be a social marketing campaign or a marketing campaign, right? Especially if you're in creator business, it's so important that creators are part of your business model, are part of your business objectives. So I'll give an example of maybe it is a marketing campaign, but it was also a very specific business objective within YouTube. We had the challenge of women representation in the Middle East, women creators. As we publicly announced, we had only 5 women creators in Middle East who had above 1 million subscribers on YouTube in 2015. We managed to increase that by 30 times 30x, achieving 150 creators over 1 million subscribers by making it a business objective, as in collaborating with partnerships team, with marketing efforts, with the senior leadership to ensure that this is our livelihood. And I really love how VP of Marketing of Kurt Gerger mentioned that she treats creators as their employees, as it's 3,000 creators in her network, but she still takes them, or like the attitude towards them, as part of their company, which I find really, really fascinating. So to answer your question, I'd go beyond marketing campaigns and maybe efforts that are with a very strong business objective. Does that make sense?
Using that example, so absolutely. So very interesting market, obviously. Is there anything you can share? Any learnings, maybe expectations going in, or anything that you adjusted or evolved as you went through that?
I think overall, just important to keep a very solid and focused direction. So I think it's always tempting to jump on a trend and find the next great marketing campaign or the next great movement. And I think with us as a company, it was just this effort. The learning was to continue doing the effort every year, scaling the program to, I don't have, unfortunately, the most recent numbers, but it's been so impressive to see the growth. And sometimes the learning is we just need to keep going and keep at it as a business objective. And moreover, now we actually have even more stronger focus around it. But basically the learning sometimes, if it's a business objective, keep it as a business objective, keep going, keep optimizing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Great. So let's switch gears a little bit. We've got Chrissy on the panel, which is amazing. So can you share an example of a social impact campaign that you've taken part of that you found was particularly authentic or successful?
So, well, I have 2 that I would love to talk about. One being I've partnered with the Environmental Defense Fund, both in 2021 and 2023, to raise awareness around toxic chemicals in beauty and personal care products that are marketed to Black and brown women. Disproportionately, our beauty products contain very, very toxic chemicals. We've obviously seen this huge wave of clean beauty, but oftentimes women of color are left out of that marketing and that messaging. So the first iteration of that campaign was just to get the message out about how often this happens and these chemicals that are still very present in our hair products and personal care products, and just helping to raise awareness through my audience who knows that I'm natural and use only natural products in my hair. And then for the second iteration, because I think oftentimes with causes like these, it feels like the onus is always on us, the consumer, to change and make the decisions around seeking out the right product. So for the second iteration of the campaign, it was for us to urge our audience to actually hold these companies accountable. And there was a sign up on the site from the Environmental Defense Fund with resources about how companies can start to really implement cleaner practices and shift their products to be healthier for Black and brown women. Yeah.
That's great. Is there anything that you can share with some of the brands in the room as far as partnering with you, or how that went about, or even the partnership that you just spoke to, how that evolved or how that came about for you?
I think a big part of it is that I'm very outspoken on my platform about mental health and social justice and all of these things, and so it feels good for me that brands are able to identify me as someone with integrity and authenticity, and that's what my audience knows me for. So, I feel like for the most part, when brands come to me with these campaigns, they're always very open to hearing my feedback and how I best, talk to my audience. And I think that's so important because oftentimes, as a lot of creators know, brands are always thinking about what they want to get across and pushing that, and sometimes kind of overriding what feels best for us. So I always appreciate when brands want it to be a conversation. They really want it to be a true collaboration,
Yep.
and want me to do a project in the way that feels most authentic to me.
Yeah, so it's a really good segue. So for Jacqueline, so can you share, so what are some of the must-haves for people in this room or in your own experience that you really need to think through and know when building a campaign like this?
Absolutely. I've been really lucky. Soze is a creative agency for social impact, and so there's so much embedded just in the culture of what we do and how we do it that has made sort of the external-facing process a lot more compassionate and a lot easier with working with creators. Because I think when we think about working with creators in a social impact capacity, what we want to make sure we're doing is always making sure that what's being created is supportive of the movement that we're advocating on behalf of. And so, for instance, if we're going to talk about, let's say, reproductive justice, we want to make sure we're partnering with creators who are directly impacted by that issue and can tell their story in an authentic way. We also want to make sure that we are ensuring that every creator feels safe in the way that they're creating content and in the story that they're telling. And finally, I would say we want to make sure we're paying creators to make content. I was talking about it earlier with someone. Oftentimes in the advocacy space, there's this sense of, well, you believe in the issues, so then you should just make content. But particularly in the work that we do, we know how much it takes to make a 30-second video. It takes a lot of work. It can take hours and hours of time to make that piece. And then on top of that, it's not just the labor of making the content, it's the emotional labor on behalf of the creator. If they're directly impacted by that issue and they're talking about it, there's a lot that goes into that to talk about it. And so if we're gonna ask to take up real estate on somebody's page and we're gonna ask them to put in all that work, we gotta make sure we're paying them. Even whatever it is, as much as an impact campaign can afford, part of my job is always gonna be advocating on behalf of the creator to make sure we can give them everything that we can.
I see Chrissy nodding. Like
I'm loving everything you're saying.
Victoria, anything you want to add to that? Or again, things to keep in mind for the people in this room building campaigns?
A lot. I'm really glad you brought up that point, and I'm really glad Chrissy is nodding. If I learned something at YouTube is you need to pay creators. I mean, it's a real job. Why are we all, working our 9-to-5s and getting paid, and why is a creator not paid for their video sometimes? It tickles me when I hear it. It's just why. It's 2024. It's a legitimate profession. From YouTube's perspective, I truly believe that was the main reason why the platform is still thriving, is because it's part of the business model, creators, and we pay money to creators, right? 55% of revenue on long form, 45% of revenue on short form. And does anyone know how much money we paid out in the last 3 years, 2020 to 23? Any guesses? 10 million. Almost. $70 billion. Yeah. 70 billion to partners, media companies, and creators. So it's I think the prediction was that creator economy will be $50 billion industry. I think it's a bit higher than that.
Yep.
And again, I don't think it's done because, yes, social impact is so important, but in a way, if you want to grow someone, you need to pay them.
Yeah.
I need to get on YouTube.
So Chrissy, how have you used social impact to build your own audience? So what are some of the things?
I would say it really started while I was an editor at Harper's Bazaar, where I worked from about 2011 to 2020, and in, I believe it was 2014, 2015, I wrote a personal essay about my struggles with mental health. This was the first time I had ever been so public about mental health and struggling with anxiety, and I remember the morning that story was going up, I was so nervous because I knew it was the right thing to do, but I was kind of bracing myself that like people were gonna be like, oh, she's crazy or she's a weak person. And the feedback that I got was so incredible, so many people who told me that my story made them feel less alone, and this story was getting promoted on Facebook, so we know what that landscape looks like. It's like you can get all sorts of comments on there, but yeah, so many people told me that my story made them feel less alone, and that it really resonated with them. So it really clicked for me that there was a need for more stories like this. And so really through my Instagram, I continue to talk about my experience with anxiety, and I felt like also it was really important because here I was, an editor at Harper's Bazaar. I had this incredibly glamorous job. I'm going to events, there's around celebrities, Fashion Week, traveling all the time. But I also wanted people to know that in spite of that, I still have days where I am struggling. And the response that I got from my audience was always really positive. And so I feel because I've been so vulnerable and my audience knows me for that, it has really opened the door for them to be vulnerable about their experiences, whether that's with me or with other people. And then in 2020, I launched a newsletter called Forward Joy because there's only so much you can do on Instagram. So now I have this incredible space where I can write more personal essays about my experiences, all different life experiences, and my journey with mental health. And yeah, I continue to see that these stories really do matter to people.
Yeah, I mean, over and over and over, you just hear authenticity is everything, and so that's incredibly vulnerable. But yeah, it sounds like it was really good. So what advice can we offer creators for getting involved? I would actually love to hear from you, from your perspective.
Absolutely. Reach out and ask for help is always sort of where I come from. We work with such a wide variety of creators who span the spectrum of advocacy work. We work with movement organizers and people who lead nonprofit organizations, and they kind of know what they're doing, you know what I mean? We don't need to really provide that much guidance. But one of my favorite things that I get to do in my job is when I get to partner with somebody who hasn't traditionally done a lot of advocacy work, and they're just starting it for the first time, and something happened, and they don't know what to say, and what do I do, and what do I post, and what do I share? And getting to be in this role at Soze, we get to sort of help guide people. And so what I would say is, if you're getting started in advocacy for the first time, reach out and either ask a fellow creator who's doing this work some advice for what they've done, or reach out to an organization that you really want to partner with. They will be more than happy to work with you and to have your platform. Or you can reach out to, subtle plug, Soze, and we'd be happy to help sort of grow your journey as an activist and as an advocate. But ensure that it's, what you're sharing is coming from a place of, we keep using the word authenticity, but making sure that it's coming from that place inside of you where you really, really believe in it. And you're not just sharing, you don't need to be so immediate with the share. Know what you want. Know the story you want to tell. Know where you want to go. It doesn't need to just be the one share on your story. It can be a longer experience. It can be something that starts with one video and continues to evolve. It should be a journey, but don't do it alone, and build a community of people that you can lean on, because it's heavy work. Social impact can be really heavy. So ensuring that you have a network of people that you can work with and create content with will be really, really helpful.
That's great. Chrissy, any advice that you would give from the creator perspective?
I think it really comes down to authenticity. I know obviously the word gets thrown around so much, but it is part of it. And, I think there is a pressure at times for everyone feels like they need to tell all their stories and air out all their dirty laundry on the internet. And you absolutely don't need to do that to be a successful creator. I've written a lot of tough stories, but it's something I really feel personally called to do. Sure, I have vulnerability hangovers still, when I send out my newsletters, but I really also listen to my audience and what really resonates with them, and that's what keeps me going. But yeah, I think everyone has a story worth telling, and our stories are very important, and sometimes you don't know how something like difficult that you've been through can help other people. So I always think that's really important. Like when I first started suffering from panic attacks when I was like in middle school, I would have never dreamed in a million years that one day I would be so vocal about it and that I would build a career around it. And this thing that I saw as like such a weakness in me at that time has become my ultimate source of strength.
Yeah, amazing. I can't believe we're almost up on time, so I'll just do a quick run through. I'd love to, just starting with Victoria. What's the last piece of advice that you give to anyone that really wants to get into or expand their social impact programs from a YouTube perspective?
Oh, interesting. I will tap on to what Jacqueline brushed upon, but I really, really believe that this piece of advice just really, really helps, is both creators or agencies or corporate, let's say, clients, everyone, especially creators, are really, really good at building community. And I'm not going to throw out this word again. Like, what I mean here is, if you want to build a social impact cause around mental health, then build a community of mental health professionals, mental health advocates, mental health institutions. Talk to them, meet them, have a very, very specialized community, because these people are the ones that will help you actually drive impact. The creators that I know that have millions and millions of subscribers on YouTube are genuinely so good at that. They don't just build an audience for the part of the content that they already broadcast. They also have a very specific community that helps them build social impact or get that brand deal, and vice versa. Talent agencies just really, really having that network. And I have to say, CreatorIQ is brilliant at this. So a very lovely community. So yeah.
I'll also actually add to that is, you know, the more that I have spoken up about mental health, the more I've been able to grow this really incredible community of like mental health professionals. It's like, I don't have a psychology degree. This is just something that I'm really interested in. And it's been cool to see how therapists who have followings on Instagram have reached out to me, have shared their books with me, because they know that because I speak about this, my audience also, you know, is interested in this. And the last 2 years, I was also hosting a podcast for Maybelline called I'm Fine You, which was dedicated to destigmatizing mental health. And from there as well, I got to continue to build this incredible network of people who are either in the mental health professional space or just in the advocacy space. And yeah, it just happens naturally as you continue to talk about this, you know, talk about your issue and build an audience around it.
Yeah, true community. I love that. All right, Jacqueline, you want to bring us home? Last piece of advice you might give to the people in the room looking to, again, just get into or expand in social impact?
Yeah, the last piece of advice I would give, I would say particularly for brands and organizations that are hoping to work with creators on social impact campaigns, is as you're building your team to build the campaign, ensure that you have somebody on that team who understands the issue. And if you don't have somebody in the room who's helping build the strategy, do the research, do the influencer list, like do the creative, if you don't have somebody on that team who's directly impacted by, I'll use reproductive justice again as an example, it's probably time to contract somebody in who can help give a perspective from inside the movement and from inside the community, because your strategy will be sharper, your research will be sharper, and the influencers that you choose will be the absolute right people for the campaign.
Yeah, that's amazing. We have 30 seconds to go before lunch, so I apologize. No time for questions, but I know that we have a great panel that will, I'm sure, speak with you on the side. So let's take a moment and thank our panelists.